The House Committee on Labor will come to order. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Chair Hotzma.
Present.
Representatives Munzer.
Present.
Colzar.
Here.
O'Neill. Andrews. Churches. Present. Wagella.
Here.
Wozniak. Mueller. Kuntz. Mr. Chair, you have 5 members present. You do not have a quorum.
Good. Go Eddie's. Just go with his hair.
All right, we're go at ease at the chair's call presently. So we're going to proceed and take testimony So at this point, the first item on our agenda is House Bill 6058, sponsored by Representative Song. That bill would adjust public employer contributions to employee medical benefits plans. We do have a quorum now. Do we take attendance once more?
No, but we can do minutes, or we can go back.
Okay. Representative Wozniak is here. We have quorum. May I have a motion to accept the minutes from the November 14, 2024 meeting? Representative Kolazar moves. As I was indicating, the first item on our agenda is House Bill 6058, sponsored by Representative Song. I now invite Representative Song up to present her bill.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Hatzma and members of the Labor Committee for allowing me the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 6058. I'd like to thank my staff, our policy team, and numerous stakeholders who've worked tirelessly to get us to this point. Since joining the legislature just over 6 months ago, I've had the opportunity to work on this legislation with the input of stakeholders and those deeply impacted by Public Act 152 of 2011. I'm so appreciative of the collaborative efforts that have been put forth into this legislation by my colleagues, including many of you and others in the legislature. Together, we are taking an important step towards supporting our public employees and the Michigan families they serve. HB 6058 amends the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, PA 152, also known as the 80-20 law, to make 80% the floor instead of the ceiling for the public employer's share of health care costs. And it ensures that public employees will not have to pay more than 20% of health insurance costs in collective bargaining agreements that are renegotiated, renewed, or extended after the bill's effective date. This legislation increases the hard cap dollar amounts for the collective bargaining agreements still in place on the bill's effective date. It increases the dollar amounts in our public employees' medical benefits plan to keep up with inflation and contains future increases in these costs. It provides more flexibility for public employers and employees to negotiate health insurance. As many of you know, staffing in our state's public sector is currently at a crisis level. From the teacher shortage to understaffed municipal services, it is clear that we must take action to ensure public employees and their families are better supported. We know from conversations with several public school administrators, collective bargaining units, and staff who've negotiated the hard cap amounts in their collective bargaining agreements, and that their teachers are facing a potential $7,000 increase in costs starting next year, which is in less than 2 months. By adopting this legislation to amend PA 152 now, we can take the necessary steps to provide immediate relief for these public employees while combating increases in health insurance costs for workers and their dependents moving forward. This bill will help to improve recruitment and retention of public employees. When our public workers have affordable health care for themselves and their family, our residents can be best rest assured that their public safety departments are adequately staffed and city maintenance services are operating efficiently. I humbly urge this committee to move this legislation forward, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions of any committee members? Representative Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, the chair was in the way. I couldn't see you, so my apologies. Thank you for the relocation. So thank you for coming today. The question is of budgeting. We've agreed on an amount. The employees have agreed. The employers have agreed. And now we're going to increase expenses. Where should the funding come from? Do we increase taxes, or would you rather cut services?
That's a great question. I think that we have to look at our appropriations in the upcoming year, but I do believe that the workers should not bear the burden of their health insurance costs having gone up. The Public Act has stated that they pay 20%, but with the hard cap and inflation, they actually end up paying a lot more.
I understand, but the increased money has to come from somewhere. Where should the money come from?
I think we can look at that when we get there. Thank you. Thank you,
So
Chair.
pass the bill and then we'll fund it? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think this is an important step to take in order to remedy what Public Act 152 has done to workers.
Well, of course it's important, but we have to look at this holistically. We have to pay the bill. Where does the money come from?
That is a question that I think we can take a look at and come to a solution when we get to that point.
We're there now. You want to pass a bill that increases expenses. Where does the money come from?
I don't think it necessarily increases this. I think that's a different conversation, with all due respect, Representative. This really addresses that hard cap and the 80-20 to ensure that our workers are paying their fair share, which is just the 20%.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right.
Interesting in economics.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Representative Coons. Representative Colasar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill up. I think you are trying to address a problem that really, if we look at it, this 20% was not negotiated. We go back to 2011, it was imposed on us, on all public sector employees, basically. It was, so I say us, I say anyone that has been a public sector employee at any time. It was imposed out of nowhere by a Republican trifecta. And on top of that, school funding between 2005 and 2015 ranked dead last in the country, while a 20% imposure was made. So you had less benefits, you had it impossible to get raises, you had a situation where we saw up until this legislature prohibited subjects of bargaining. So if you look at the social contract that was made between our public sector employees, it was always simple. It was like, look, you're never going to be wealthy doing this job, but we'll take care of you. You'll have really good benefits. You'll have a really good retirement. And what we saw was that chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And that is why we have the shortage that we have now. So I want to thank you for trying to address a problem that predates any of our service in the legislature. And in terms of, I'd be curious, so when I hear you answering the question about where this money is going to come from, could you argue that maybe the best place for it to come from is a legislature that puts these people's needs forward and shows that we care about these people here in the state of Michigan?
Well, first of all, Representative, I'm grateful for your opinion because I know you're a former teacher, and so hearing firsthand from you and your frustration is critically important. And we've heard from numerous teachers and public workers how this is really impacting them, the Public Act 152, and how this amendment will really help to remedy that. In the legislature, I don't argue that we have to make very tough decisions. And I understand we just have one pie and everyone wants a piece of that pie. We have to be strategic and try to stretch our dollars as much as we can, but not off the backs of our public workers or teachers or police officers. Thank you.
Quick
Thank you, Chair.
follow-up, if I may. Also, I think you're trying to attack rising healthcare costs. And would you agree that ultimately, if we're ever going to get a fix for this, this has to come from the national level? We can only do so much here at the state level. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Representative Wigella.
Yeah, first off, thank you for being here. You know, I think we're in a moment of crisis when it comes to healthcare in this country. 45% of families are struggling to pay medical bills at the moment, and that includes our public sector workers. So I appreciate you bringing forward a bill that can help address that. You know, I long term, you know, I would love to see us move to universal health care, considering that 73 countries around the world, or 69% of the world, has it, and we don't have it here in the United States. That being said, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, and can you talk a little bit more about how you think this will have an impact on our public sector and how it will help families and children around the state to have coverage for healthcare?
Thank you, Representative. So public employees typically take a lower salary because they rely on the health benefits and other benefits that that job brings. And so this bill really addresses that rising healthcare costs that you're talking about. It would have an immense impact because they wouldn't have to spend the majority of their salary on just medical care. They could actually pay for food and gas and clothing for their children. And so this is going to have, as I said in my testimony, an immediate impact and immediate relief for families starting in 2025, but also ensuring that we can lower those costs long term. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to hear some, thank you, Representative Song. We're going to hear some testimony from some witnesses by virtual platform. So the first one, we have Rick Meath from the Michigan Education Association. Can you put him in queue? Someone?
Thank you. My name is Rick Meath, and I'm the president of the Bay City Education Association and a member of the Michigan Education Association. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to testify and also allowing me the opportunity to use this format. With today's weather, it would have been very difficult for me to get down to Lansing. So I very much appreciate you allowing me to testify virtually like this. I'm speaking in favor of House Bill 6058 and support any attempt to reform PA 152. We have lived with PA 152 for more than 12 years, and the problems PA 152 was supposed to have solved have not gone away, and the effects of PA 152 have had negative consequences on public education in Michigan. PA 152 limits the choices local school districts have with providing healthcare benefits to their employees. I became president of the Bay City Education Association in 2011, the same year PA 152 was passed, along with historic cuts to the foundational allowance to school districts. As a bargaining representative of the teachers in Bay City, we chose to pay more for our health insurance benefits in 2011 than PA 152 required, because our school district was on the verge of bankruptcy. This is an example of what local school districts and their collective bargaining units can achieve on their own to serve the best interest of the employees, the students, and their communities. PA 152 is punitive to school districts because it does not give them the option to opt out of the law like local units of government can do. In Bay City, the city commission this fall voted to opt out of PA 152 to prevent catastrophic cost increases to their employees. School districts do not have this option under PA 152. This year, the hard cap rates in PA 152 increased only 0.2% for 2025. The medical rate increases for Bay City was 15% for 2025. That 15% increase is not a 15% increase of the cost of each employee, but it's rather because of the hard cap, 15% of the total cost of the medical plan. That translated anywhere from 131% to a 216% increase in the amount teachers were contributing towards their health care in 2025. Teachers in Bay City saw their contributions increase between $843 to over $3,380 this year, depending upon the plan and the coverage. The only alternative we were allowed under PA 152 was to offer an additional high deductible plan for less money, but also higher out-of-pocket costs for teachers. We're not the only ones. Jenison saw a 17% increase, Centerline an 18% increase, Hastings a 17% increase. House Bill 6058 will offer an immediate increase in the hard cap for 2025 and provide some relief to teachers who've seen too much taken out of their paychecks and diminishing benefits for their contributions. House Bill 6058 will provide a better mechanism for the hard cap to keep pace with inflation than what is allowed under PA 152 currently. House Bill 6058 will not fix the problems of skyrocketing health and prescription rates, but it will allow school districts another option when bargaining with their employees over health benefits. Thank you for allowing me to testify, and thank you for taking up House Bill 6058, and I urge passage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meath. Any questions of Mr. Meath? Representative Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, sir, for coming today. We're all surprised it snowed in Michigan in December. My question for you is the funding. I understand that this is going to be better for the teachers and the public service. the units that have a contract. So they're in the middle of their contract, and how does their budget get affected? The money has to come from somewhere, and I'm hoping someone can tell me where the money comes from, please.
Well, Representative, the money's already there. The money's in the current school aid budget. And if House Bill 6058 is passed and there's a 7% increase immediately and to the hard cap rates, the amount that the school district will pay will be increased by 7% of their cost. Now, where does that money come from? It comes either from their general fund, it comes from their current allotment, and if that amount will impact the district, the finance of the district, that's where the local bargaining comes in. As I said before, in 2011, even though the hard cap, the 80-20 was in place, we chose to pay 24% towards our insurance. It is in the best interest of local bargaining units to secure the financial safety of local school districts and local units of government. If there's a choice, that's something that needs to be done at the local level. A school district, a city, a local unit of government will go to their employee groups and say, look, we can either afford to pay more for your insurance and less in future increases, or we're going to have to make cuts in some places, but those are local decisions. There is money available. The money is there. It's just a matter of where it's going to be allocated.
Thank you for bringing up the opportunity of cuts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Representative Colasar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. I actually student taught in Bay City, so always good to talk to someone from Bay City. I don't know what Bay City Public Schools' particular situation is, but I do know a lot of situations around the state. We have billions of dollars sitting in positive fund balances across school districts, in school districts across the state. And I also know that we recently reduced the pension repayment system because schools were overpaying into that system. I know at Plymouth Canton schools, they're going to see about a $500 per pupil increase. At Northville, it's about $431 per pupil increase. Livonia, also around $500 per pupil increase. I'm curious if you guys in Bay City have also seen a per pupil increase in terms of the legislation that we just passed back in September.
Representative Colasar, are you asking me a question? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just asking if you guys saw a per pupil increase due to not just funding increases from 2023, but also if you saw it from the when we reduced the repayment rate due to the overpayment you were all doing into the pension system.
I agree with what you're saying, Representative Colasar. The reduction in the MIPSR contribution starting on October 1st in the middle of a contract did not result in automatic increases to employee compensation. So the question I think was originally asked was, where does the money come from? And my response is, it's there. There is no passage of House Bill 6058 is not an increase in cost to state government. It is not an increase in contribution. It is just really a different allocation of where existing resources are going to be allocated towards benefits, towards salaries, towards personnel. Those are decisions that are best made at the local level.
And I appreciate that. I was, in my very long-winded way, was trying to tell you that I agree with you.
Thank you, Representative Colasar. Thank you, Mr. Meath. Our next witness will too be by virtual platform. It's James Humphreys, President of United Steelworkers Local 1444. Good morning, Mr. Humphreys.
Good morning. As mentioned, my name is James Humphreys, and I'm the president of the United Steelworkers Local 14449. and I am a truck driver, heavy equipment operator for the Wexford County Road Commission for the last 25 years. I'm also the night supervisor for road patrol and getting the guys rolling at night and out on the roads. Some of the duties that my coworkers and I perform at the road commissions are plowing snow, which we have plenty to do today, and grading roads, installing, repairing drainage, culverts, trimming trees, maintaining roadways. Thank you, Chair Hadsma and the committee for allowing me to testify at the hearing today on behalf of my members in the Wexford County Road Commission, as well as all the public employees in the state of Michigan. Under the 80-20 requirement, a public employer is only permitted by law to cover 80% of the employee's health care premium, including prescription drugs, which leaves the remaining 20% of the cost to the workers, along with the high deductibles and office visits and copays, which are getting more and more every day. It also has the hard cap provisions, which places a flat dollar amount on single, double, and family plans. When the coverage exceeds the hard cap, the employees are responsible for 100% of the cost over and above it. The state adjusts the hard caps annually, but these adjustments do not keep up with the inflation rates and of the insurance from year to year, and it ends up costing the workers considerably. This is a huge burden on the workers like myself and my members, because the law requires us to negotiate the best coverage we can at the bargaining table, but also ensures that the coverage is affordable to the members, and we're being priced out of the hard caps at the first annual enrollment. After the contract has been negotiated, and then are left paying huge premiums from their paychecks, because the employer is not permitted by law to pay any more than the 80% on hard caps. PA 152 of 2011 forces the union and the employer to negotiate inadequate insurance coverage for employees so the premiums are affordable throughout the duration of the contract. This results in higher deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums, and places a huge financial burden on the workers. It also pits members against each other, the younger who are more healthy versus the older who are less healthy, and those who need single coverages versus those who need family coverages. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to this issue. So each local union and each employer need the ability to negotiate a solution that works for their situation at each contract renewal. Public Act 152 from 2011 prevents the employer and the union from negotiating a solution on healthcare costs that works for their employees. Each year at the Road Commission, we were faced with a huge dilemma. Earlier this year, I should say, we were faced with a huge dilemma at the Road Commission with our health insurance cost. One of the things, we're a small group, we don't get our numbers till of what the increase is going to be no more than about 2 weeks before we have to enter into open enroll. Our management and along with the union work very diligently to provide the best health care that they can with the cap, but they're strangled by the cap, and they do the best that they can. Our story goes with we had 2 weeks to try to. We had a contract, a 5-year contract, and every year our health insurance has gone up. We've had to change it. We've had to do multiple different things. We had to get very creative to keep health insurance for the folks, for the guys. And this year, we weren't able to get creative anymore. We went from a pretty nominal cost to upwards of $400 to $700 a month increased insurance premiums. That also you have to add on to the office visits and the healthcare premiums and all that. It was a huge shock to our system when we went from a very minimal amount of paying to a 9% decrease is what it holds up to. It cost us 9% out of our yearly salary to keep our health insurance even close. It has caused many of our members to actually leave the road commission because our wages haven't kept up, which we all know that. We're not there to make money. We're there to provide a service, which we're happy to do. And, we keep losing people left and right because they're coming from the private sector. And now they also have to pay for their insurance and take the pay cut and pay even more for the health insurance because of the hard cap. We continue to strive at the Wexford County Road Commission to provide the best product we can for the public. But we're running out of people that want to come and do these type of jobs. And, our pay is not keeping with the private sector. Our benefits are dwindling. We don't have pensions to offer anymore. And our health insurance is just another burden that we have to carry. And that's just a little bit about what we have going on. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the House Bill 6058, and thank you for your consideration in passing this important legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. Representative Wagello.
Hi, thank you for your testimony. First, I want to recognize that we live in the wealthiest country in the history of this planet, where 3 people have more wealth than the bottom half of the country, which is a disgusting figure. That being said, 1 in 4 adults say that in the past past year, they've skipped or postponed healthcare procedures due to the cost. And the problem with that is what we're seeing is it's actually increasing stress and costs on the system, because when you delay healthcare costs go up when you finally solve the problem. That being said, do you see that the current 80-20 system also contributes to people not being able to treat their immediate healthcare costs because of the way that it's structured? And would this bill help us solve that immediate problem of people delaying healthcare procedures, of having healthcare costs that are affordable? And to the question that that's continually being asked, how do we pay for this? I think we certainly need to add more money to roads, local cities, and schools. So I think we should look at solutions on that. But the question at hand, I think, is one of, do we help our public employees pay for their healthcare costs more or not? And does this allow for collective bargaining to meet the needs of people?
Well, I believe that, this bill is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's gonna fix it by any means. There's a lot more problems facing us. We need help from the national level, as was stated earlier. And as far as paying for it, I've heard a lot about that. At the Wexford County Road Commission, we're a pretty conservative group of folks there, and we do a lot of extra work for the federal forest, and the money's there, but it just, with the cap, it restrains what they can pay. They want to give us more. They want to be able to do this because of the work that we provide for them, and they feel like, our management, and I work closely with them. I believe that just loosening that cap, or at least giving that cap a raise that follows the inflation, would help out tremendously. Like I said, it's not keeping pace with one another.
Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. Are there any other questions of Mr. Humphreys? Thank you, sir, for testifying from up in the Cadillac area. We appreciate that. The next witness, also by virtual platform, is... So I'm told he's not coming. So we're going to go directly to live people. And first one I have is Dina Bosworth from the Michigan Association of Counties. Ms. Bosworth.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this important legislation. So again, I am Dina Bosworth. I am the Director of Governmental Affairs for the Michigan Association of Counties. We represent 619 county commissioners across the state with over 43,000 employees. It has become increasingly difficult to recruit and retain employees at the local government level. in part due to the decrease in the workforce, but also in part due to the financial constraints placed upon local governments through policies passed at the state level. House Bill 6058, MAC is strongly opposed to. Not because we don't see the need to fix a flaw in the law created when Public Act 152 was originally enacted, but because this approach is overly complicated and opens the door for more contentious and more costly bargaining with our employees, many of whom have the benefit of binding arbitration. Had we been consulted in the formulation of the bill before you today, the other interest groups would have found a strong ally in solving this problem. When Public Act 152 was originally enacted, it was intended to curb the cost of rising healthcare premiums, encourage a cost-share system that would motivate our employees and our county commissioners alike to become healthier, and to also recognize the cost of rising healthcare. Rising healthcare costs. Counties in Michigan have three choices under Public Act 152 when it comes to cost sharing with employees. We can provide a plan where the employer contribution stays at or below that hard cap. We can provide a plan where the employer pays 80%, the employee pays 20%, or we have the option of opting out of the system. And that requires us to negotiate it at the bargaining table, which typically favors one bargaining unit over another once everything shakes out. The majority of our counties has opted to live within the hard cap or the 80-20 to avoid the costly, time-consuming, contentious negotiations. Unfortunately, the original inflationary mechanism built into the law was not based on the true cost of health care, but was tied to the medical care component of the U.S. Consumer Price Index. This inflationary mechanism is not reflective of the rise in prescription drug costs, nor is it based on what is happening with healthcare in Michigan. It soon became clear that the hard cap was not keeping up, and our employees were forced to absorb larger shares of the cost of the plans. Counties across Michigan value their employees and do not want to place undue financial constraints on them, and do not want to see employees take pay cuts because of the rise in these costs. When evaluating a fix for this problem, county employers' goals are to, number one, not repeal the act and subject the employer to lengthy negotiations, especially in the era of continued financial constraints placed on local governments through forced property tax exemptions, tax loopholes like dark stores, increasing responsibilities, and rising costs across the spectrum. Our next goal is to maintain the goals of the original law while fixing the flaws in it. Number three, we want to reset the hard cap so we can pay more in premiums instead of passing that burden on to our employees. After all, we value them and want to pay them fairly and retain the talent. And number four, we absolutely want to fix that inflationary component so we are not in this situation again in the future. Our proposed fix for the situation is simple. Reset the hard cap to the numbers set forth in the bill, and tie the increase to an inflationary mechanism more reflective of the experience in Michigan. The Department of Financial and Insurance Services approves rate increases for the ACA-compliant health insurance policies in the small group market every year. If we use the average increase as approved by the state regulatory agency, the cost share and hard cap will reflect the experience in Michigan while still holding true to the original intent of the law. Should this approach be adopted, MAC would be supportive of the legislation. But if the bill continues to make all of this up to bargaining and pit employee groups against each other, we would have to stay opposed. Thank you for your time and consideration. We're hopeful that we can be a part of the solution.
Thank you, Ms. Bosworth. Are there questions of Ms. Bosworth? Representative Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So the county's finances are all public, and I keep hearing the money's there. Do you have some secret account that I don't know about
No, but there's lots of legislation you could pass that would help fix that.
that would lower the cost? Interesting. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Ms. Bosworth? Thank you, Ms. Bosworth. The next witness is Chris Genuwire. He represents the Michigan Professional Firefighters. He's from Imlay City. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Hadsma and members of the committee. Thank you for letting us come up here and testify on this important bill. I'm President Matt Saar for the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union. I represent approximately 5,000 firefighters that serve about 80% of our population.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for allowing me to speak today. First time doing this, a couple little nerves, but just kind of want to touch base on some how Public Act 152 has kind of touched me and my local. My name is Chris Genuine. I am the union president for the Shelby Township Firefighters, Local 1338. In the aftermath of the 2008 recession, our locals across the entire state stepped up and worked collaboratively with municipalities at the bargaining table to address the financial challenges that were caused by the economic downturn. Healthcare was one of the several areas where those concessions were made, and my local was no exception. During negotiations, my local agreed to adopt one of the high deductible plans, which significantly reduced healthcare costs for our township, providing much needed fiscal relief during that time. In the wake of our healthcare concessions, Public Act 152 was passed, and shortly thereafter, my township board opted for the 80-20 provision, forcing my members to now pay 20% for the reduced healthcare plan that they had just negotiated for. This decision was made without our input, and it placed an additional financial burden on my members, costing them upwards of $4,000 annually on top of the new high deductible that they had to pay. So in terms, this factored about, from what I figured out, about a 7% pay reduction just from that $4,000 alone after they had got done with negotiations and taken other concessions as well. The proposed legislation represents a step in the right direction to address the flawed calculation of the hard cap option and to begin addressing the challenges of the 80-20 option as well. My hope is that this marks the start of returning healthcare decisions to the local bargaining table where they rightfully belong, where labor and management work together and maintain local control. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of either of these two gentlemen? Do you have a question, or are you just waving?
I'm just waving.
Thank you. Thanks for coming up.
Just want to say good morning to Representative Menser. She waved, and she really appreciates us, and I just want to make sure we pointed that out today.
Thank you. We're next hear from Ted McTaggart of Michigan Nurses Association.
Good morning. My name is Ted McTaggart. I live in Waterford, and I'm a registered nurse at Michigan Medicine, which is the University of Michigan's health system. I'm also an officer in our union, MNAUMPNC, which is part of the Michigan Nurses Association, and I'm on the executive board of the Michigan Nurses Association. MNAUMPNC represents nearly 7,000 nurses at U of M in the University of Michigan health system. We're here in support of House Bill 6058, and we want to thank Representative Song for introducing it. We stand in solidarity with all workers in the public sector, including our fellow healthcare unions at Michigan Medicine. This bill, also known as the 80-20 bill or the hard cap bill, is important to all of us because workers having access to affordable healthcare is a value we all believe in. Healthcare workers are vulnerable to needing more healthcare than some other professions because of the diseases we're exposed to, including COVID and the injuries we suffer on the job. It is unacceptable that some healthcare workers cannot afford to insure themselves fully or can't afford healthcare for their families, even while providing healthcare to others. Yet we know that to be the case. As healthcare costs rise, it's important that workers and employers have flexibility at the bargaining table, and that's what this bill provides. We would like to have the option of employees paying less than 20% of the total benefit costs if that is something that the employer and the union want to agree on. Making healthcare affordable to workers is not only the right thing to do, it is key to attracting and retaining the best employees. Why not change the law so that employers have every tool possible, especially in healthcare, which is dealing with a huge staffing crisis? Thank you for letting me share my thoughts on this important topic.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Any questions of Mr. McTaggart? Thank you, sir. And last person wishing to speak on this bill is Anthony Minghein of the Michigan Municipal League. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you to the committee for the opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm Anthony Mingini. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Michigan Municipal League, and actually was engaged on this topic when PA 152 was originally adopted, participated in the committee on behalf of the league. We share a lot of the sentiments that the county's voiced in terms of there's probably a need to take a look at some of the aspects of this. As someone who was involved then, the hard cap numbers that were set and the inflationary indexes, that we knew then that inflationary index wasn't going to keep pace with. But this was enacted out of a need at the local level to address healthcare costs that were significantly outpacing everything else in our cost bucket. And we were trying to be as thoughtful as we could in doing that. So one of the things I want to point out, there's been a lot of talk about the ability to do things at the local level. There is an opt-out provision in the Act as it currently exists. So where communities and their bargaining units feel the need to place a higher emphasis on healthcare, they can allocate additional resources by simply opting out in doing that. This bill, as it's currently constructed, does a few things that I think are ultimately detrimental, not just to the healthcare, to the community's financials, but also potentially to the workers. It sets a floor for healthcare and what would be contributed. As we've heard voiced a few times here today, there is a limited amount of resources available. If we take more, we mandate more, goes to one spot, that means it slides out of somewhere else. And I think right now you have a situation where communities and their unions can come together and put that package together in the way that makes the most sense for them. And the answer is a little bit different everywhere. Fixing the cap probably does make some sense. It's accurate to say that the current inflation that's been applied to, which I think is the normal CPI, has not kept pace with that. And setting this on a trajectory where it can do that. This also has a provision in there where every individual unit would have to approve of the plan, which essentially could put one unit into almost a veto power position, which again I think undermines the collective bargaining process in its totality, as well as making it very difficult for locals to manage this. So we'd like to see a more thoughtful approach to dealing with a real issue here. I think that some of the things that have been said are true and accurate. This, however, I think is too far-reaching and way more complicated than it needs to be. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir, for your succinct presentation. Representative Wagella.
Asking out of curiosity, because I can understand, the concern from local governments and how this will affect their budgets. Because we have the ability in this institution to increase revenue sharing. It's something I support, and I know where we could find $500 million tomorrow. That being said, would you support a bill like this if your funding was more adequate?
As this currently constructed, no. There are issues with this beyond the funding of that. I think one of the challenges every local government has is, again, no matter how high you set the number, it's still at some point, you have what you have. How do you best construct the service levels, the benefit packages, the wage packages in a way that makes sense for your community? And I think this, as it's constructed, puts constraints around it that maybe people aren't appreciating that I think would really tie everyone's hands in doing that. We would like the $500 million. That'd be great.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Appreciate your testimony today.
Thank you.
We do have one more witness. I understood earlier this witness was perhaps not going to testify, but he's here. Steve Perry from IBW Local 352. Mr. Perry.
Good morning, Chair Hosma and members of the committee. My name is Steve Perry, and I am the business manager of IBEW Local 352, which represents the employees at Board of Water and Light here in Lansing. I am here on behalf of the IBEW Michigan State Conference that strongly supports House Bill 6058. This bill is necessary to remedy an unfair law that has created very negative circumstances for public employees across Michigan over the last decade. When PA 152 took effect in 2011, our members experienced an immediate cut of their overall compensation. For years prior to PA 152, our local had negotiated with our employer to protect our members from huge increases in healthcare costs. To do this, we gave up nominal wage increases year after year and instead opted to have the employer pay a higher share of our healthcare cost. The legislature then decided to arbitrarily change our members at least 20% of the cost of our healthcare, which amounted to a massive pay cut for employees at the Board of Water and Light. PA 152 did not take into account past collective bargaining decisions, and despite the fact that we have fairly bargained to give up our pay to keep healthcare costs low, we were suddenly faced with a state law that took no notice of that. House Bill 6058 will not restore those lost wages. Unlike PA 152, it does not arbitrarily require public employers to pay more than 80% of the cost of healthcare benefits. Our members would greatly appreciate it if it did, but we recognize that to do so would be unfair and come with its own set of consequences. What House Bill 6058 does do is restore the collective bargaining process so that both sides can work out an agreement that works for everyone. We urge your support for House Bill 6058, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I would like to make one statement. I did look through a lot of our collective bargaining agreements over the years, and some of the concessions that were made to keep our healthcare premiums low were lesser pay raises, loss of certain overtime rules, less vacation days, loss of work rules and compensation time, increase in prescription drug costs and copays, vision and dental reductions of coverage. So we made concessions to keep those low, and we negotiated those costs. So I can take any questions if there are any at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there any questions of any members of Mr. Perry? Thank you, Mr. Perry, for coming and testifying today. We do have some cards to read in. Supporting the bill but not wishing to speak, David McCallus, a citizen from St. Clair Shores. Supporting the bill but not wishing to speak, Adam Farrell of the Dearborn Firefighters. Supporting the bill but not wishing to speak is Mickey Wira from Michigan as a citizen. Monty Nair supports the bill, doesn't wish to speak, Michigan Professional Firefighters member. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Andy Newman from the Michigan Education Association. Supporting the bill but not wishing to speak is Bill Wolfson from Great Lakes Water Authority. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Todd Tennis of the IBEW Michigan State Conference. In a different manifestation, Todd Tennis of AFT Michigan supports the bill, doesn't wish to speak. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, is Stephen Rizeppa of ASME. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, but testimony submitted to the committee clerk is Joey Combs of SEIU 517M. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Mike Battersea of the Michigan Township Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Jacob Manning of the Small Business Association of Michigan. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Ryan Seabolt of Michigan AFL-CIO. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Brian SCOAF of the Detroit Chamber, Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Beth Kelly Bird of SEIU Michigan. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Amanda Fisher of NFIB. We are now going to go at ease at the call of the chair. Where's Colazar? Hey. It's out in the car.
Okay.
Okay, we're back on. This time, I would entertain a motion to report out House Bill 6058. Representative Churches moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report House Bill 6058, Chair Hadsma?
Yes.
Representatives Menser? Yes. Colazar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 6058 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Next up is House Bill 4729 from Representative Snyder. We heard testimony on this last year. The bill extends the current disability presumption of heart and respiratory diseases to more firefighters. I would entertain a motion to report out House Bill 4729. Representative Menser, Vice Chair Menser moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report House Bill 4729,
Is there a substitute? I'm sorry. Are we going to? They're not doing the substitute. Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay.
on the motion to report House Bill 4729, Chair Hadsma?
Yes.
Representatives Menser? Yes. Colazar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
Pass.
Mueller? Coons?
Pass.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 0 nay, 2 pass. House Bill 4729 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. We'll now take up 6 bills on which we heard testimony in April 2023. The first is House Bill 4399. This is a bill from Vice Chair Menser that reins in the overuse of non-compete agreements. Representative Menser, I understand you may have an H2 substitute.
Yeah, the substitute prohibits a business, the substitute prohibits a business from entering into, obtaining, enforcing, or representing to an employee that a non-compete agreement applies to them covering more than just low-wage workers. It provides an exception if the worker is an owner of the business and the non-compete meets certain requirements, agreements that prohibit employees from disclosing confidential information or trade secrets, and certain solicitation agreements are excluded from this prohibition. It provides a private right of action for damages, actual necessary costs, and lost income, and applies retroactively and prospectively.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Menser moves to adopt her H2 substitute. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion to adopt the H2 substitute, Chair Hadsma?
Yes.
Representatives Menser? Yes. Colazar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. The H2 is adopted.
And entertain a motion additionally to report out the H2 version of House Bill 4399. Representative Churches moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Hadsma?
Yes.
Representatives Menser? Yes. Colazar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 4399 is reported with recommendation of sends to H2.
The next bill is House Bill 4402. Representative Wagella moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Hadsma?
Yes.
Representatives Menser? Yes. Colazar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
Pass.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 1 nay, 1 pass. House Bill 4402 is reported with recommendation.
Now we have House Bill 4403. Representative O'Neill moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Hodsma?
Yes.
Representatives Munzer?
Yes.
Colzar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 4403 is reported with recommendation.
Now we have House Bill 4404. Representative Colzar moves to report with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Hodsma?
Yes.
Representatives Munzer?
Yes.
Colzar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 4404 is reported with recommendation.
Then we have House Bill 4405 or 4405. We need to adopt an H2 substitute that resolves a conflict with a recently passed public act. Representative Churches moves to adopt the H2 substitute to House Bill 4405. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H2 substitute, Chair Hodsma?
Yes.
Representatives Munzer?
Yes.
Colzar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons?
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. The H2 is adopted.
Representative Wagella moves to report the H2 version of House Bill 4405 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report House Bill 4405 as substitute H2, Chair Hodsma?
Yes.
Representatives Munzer?
Yes.
Colzar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller?
No.
Coons?
Sorry.
Finally,
Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 4405 is reported with recommendation as substitute H2.
Finally, Representative O'Neill moves to report out with recommendation House Bill 4406. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Hodsma?
Yes.
Representatives Munzer?
Yes.
Colzar?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Andrews? Churches? Yes. Wagella?
Yes.
Wozniak?
No.
Mueller? Coons? No. Mr. Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 4406 is reported with recommendation.
I have some cards to read in. This first set is related to the firefighters' presumption bill of Representative Snyder's, House Bill 4729. Josh Mosher of Northern Michigan Fire Chiefs supports the bill, doesn't wish to speak. Stephanie Johnson of Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs supports the bill, doesn't wish to speak. Chris Kraft of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan opposes the bill as written, doesn't wish to speak. Mike Batterby from the Michigan Townships Association opposes the bill, doesn't wish to speak. And Aaron McDonough of the Insurance Alliance of Michigan opposes the bill, doesn't wish to speak. Brandley Spencer Cook of the Accident Fund Group, I think it's the Accident Fund Group, AF Group, opposes the bill, doesn't wish to speak. Trying to come up with some chronological order. This pile first, I take it. All right. Supporting 4399, not wishing to speak, is Ashley Steffen from the Michigan Department of the Attorney General. Supporting House Bill 4399 but not wishing to speak, Noah Smith from the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters, or representing the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Ryan Seabolt of the Michigan AFL-CIO. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, is Yusuf Rabi from the Michigan Nurses Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Jacob Manning from the Small Business Association of Michigan. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Dave Worthams from the Michigan Manufacturers Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Mike Frederick of the Michigan Groundwater Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Dawn Crandall from the Home Builders Association of Michigan. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Amy Drum of the Michigan Retailers Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Wendy Block from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Amanda Fisher of NFIB. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Brian Schorf of the Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Shane Hernandez of ABC of Michigan. And opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Jackie Dulce from the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce. Supporting 4402 through 4406, but not wishing to speak, Robert George of the Michigan Laborers District Council. Supporting 4402 through 4406, not wishing to speak, Noah Smith, representing the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Yusuf Rabi from the Michigan Nurses Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Amy Drum from the Michigan Retailers Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Wendy Block from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Dawn Crandall from the Home Builders Association of Michigan. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Jackie Dulce of the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, is Brendan Smith of Leo. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Amanda Fisher of NFIB. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Dave Worthams from the Michigan Manufacturers Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Don Crandall of the Home Builders Association of Michigan. And I apologize, some of the bills I have not identified. This one is 4402 through 4405. In relation to 4402 through 4405, opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Amy Drum of the Michigan Retailers Association. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Alex Morris from the Michigan Bankers Association. This is 4402 to 4404. 4402 through 4405. In opposition is Wendy Block from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Brian Schoaf of the Detroit Chamber of Commerce, and I should say 4402 to 4406 is that set to which he's in opposition. House Bills 4405 and 4406. Opposing, not wishing to speak, is Mike Frederick from the Michigan Groundwater Association. In relation to House Bill 4402 to 4406 inclusive, opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, Shane Hernandez of ABC of Michigan. And opposing the bill, not wishing to speak, is Jacob Manning of the Small Business Association of Michigan. These bills to which he's opposed are 4402 to 4406 inclusive. We have two absent members, at least one for poor roadways conditions. I'll entertain a motion to excuse absent members. Representative Colazar makes that motion. The absent members are excused. There will be no further business before us. The House Committee on Labor is adjourned.